What happened is not normal. The blood moon came to bring a sign to all of humanity, yet almost no one noticed. And there's a detail here that really stands out. It arrives in the midst of a possible Third World War. What's more, it arrives exactly on the day of the festival of Purim. And do you know what that means? God's judgment against the enemies of Israel. That is exactly what Purim means. And it's the festival happening on March 3rd, exactly the day the blood moon will arrive. Now pay attention here. The moon serves to bring signs, as Jesus himself already said, and the festival of Purim serves to commemorate God's judgment against Israel's enemies. Now, if you combine the two, do you know what that means? It means the blood moon is announcing that God will once again punish the enemies of Israel. Do you know how the festival of Purim began? Let me explain this thing to you so you'll understand. This festival began on the day Queen Esther saved the people of Israel, saved the Jews from being massacred by Haman's evil plan. And besides God providing deliverance for the people that day, he brought judgment against Israel's own enemies who wanted to see their end. And do you know how this name Purim came about? Purim means lots. What did Haman do? He went to the king at the time, who was the king of Persia, and got authorization to exterminate all the Jews. Not just one, not just two, but all the Jews. And he obtained that authorization. He was so happy that he held a lottery. He took the calendar and held a lottery. Wherever the lottery fell on the day, he made the whole plan and built a gallows for his main enemy, who was Mordecai, a Jew. Coming to the day he held this lottery on the day of the lottery, Purim, okay? Purim. Arriving on the day of Purim, what he didn't count on was that he would fall into that gallows, and instead of being exterminated, the Jewish people would receive deliverance from that extermination, and furthermore, his enemies would be the ones exterminated. And that's why the festival of Purim came about. It's when God converted extermination into deliverance and turned the extermination against the enemies. And do you know what is happening now? It even gives me the chills. Why? Exactly the same story, repeating itself, exactly the same story. Do you know who wanted to exterminate the Jewish people back then? It was Persia. Persia wanted to exterminate the Jews at that time. And who is Persia today? Persia today is Iran. Only the name changed. Persia was called Persia until 1935. Then it changed its name to Iran. Do you think this is a coincidence, everyone? There's no way. It's impossible for this to be a coincidence. But there's one thing I need to be honest with you about here, okay? Persia, in the time of Haman, in the time of the Bible, they didn't want to exterminate the Jewish people. The one who wanted to exterminate the Jews was Haman. And today, those who want to exterminate the Israelis are not Iran, but the Ayatollahs who are in the Iranian government currently. So the spirit of Haman is upon the Ayatollahs. And do you know what the purpose is? The purpose is the same, to destroy the Jewish people. To give you an idea, inside Tehran, in the capital of Iran, the Ayatollahs have put up banners declaring war against Israel. They want the Jews to disappear from the planet. There are banners saying this right inside their capital. In other words, an open declaration that the spirit of Haman is upon the Ayatollahs. The purpose is the same. They want to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth. And just as God brought deliverance to the Jews back then, in the time of the Bible, God will bring deliverance again. And the blood moon in the midst of all this, do you know what it's for? It serves as a warning. Remember that it serves to give signs? In other words, it serves to warn that God is bringing judgment again against the enemies of Israel. Understand that God is not against the Iranian people. God is not against Iran. He is against an oppressive government that oppresses its own people and wages war against the people of Israel. Now, speaking about the blood moon, look how interesting this is. NASA and various newspapers are already stating that the blood moon will cause a 58-minute blackout in various places on the planet. Understand that it won't be across the whole planet, it will be in specific places. So we are experiencing here, folks, something prophetic, something that is written in the Bible. So here we see another sign of judgment, which shows that what is happening in the Middle East is something prophetic and is linked to the prophecy of Joel. Take a look there at what it says in the prophecy of Joel. God, he always warns us about things in advance. Look here. It says in the Bible in Genesis that the celestial bodies created by God, in this case the sun, the moon, the stars, they were created precisely to bring signs to human beings. And Jesus also affirms this in the Gospel of Luke. Take a look there. This is like God's clock on earth. And when the blood moon arrives in the midst of these two massive events that are happening, war on the level of World War III and the Feast of Purim, it only means one thing. God is delivering another sign to the world. Follow this profile here, share this with many people, because I'm going to share many things here yet about what is going to happen. And I'm going to talk mainly about the main signs of the return of Jesus. You won't want to miss it. Follow my profile.
On March 3rd, 2026, something extraordinary will happen in the skies. The moon will turn red. Did you know that? It will transform into what the Bible sometimes refers to as a blood moon.
This phenomenon is known as a blood moon, precisely because when Earth's shadow covers the moon, it takes on a reddish hue. It's beautiful to see, and the eclipse can be seen across all of the Americas from Argentina to Canada.
Do you know what day this will happen? It will happen exactly on the day of Purim, the Jewish holiday celebrating the liberation of God's people from an enemy who planned their total destruction. Here's the detail many don't know. This will be the third consecutive blood moon to fall on the day of Purim. In 2024, there was one. In 2025, there was another. And now in 2026, we'll have the third. 3 years in a row with 3 blood moons, all on the same biblical holiday. What's the probability of this happening by chance? I believe it's practically zero. And do you know what makes all of this even more frightening? Purim is the holiday celebrating the defeat of Haman, the man who tried to exterminate all the Jewish people in ancient Persia. And Persia, if you didn't know, is modern-day Iran, the same country that in recent years has sworn to destroy Israel. And believe me, it's the same country desperately trying to rebuild its nuclear program after the 12-day war in June 2025. It could be that God is painting the sky red to send us a message that we simply cannot ignore. Stay with me until the end of this video, and I'll explain everything to you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button.
The rare phenomenon turned the sky into a spectacle, which attracted many admirers. This name, everyone, blood moon, refers to the reddish color of the lunar surface, caused by sunlight rays passing around the outer edge of the eclipse's shadow, being filtered and refracted as they cross Earth's atmosphere.
Question number 1. What is a blood moon? Before talking about prophecies, we need to understand what a blood moon is, okay? From an astronomical standpoint, a blood moon occurs during a total lunar eclipse. It's when Earth positions itself exactly between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow onto the lunar surface. At that moment, the only light reaching the moon is what passes through the Earth's atmosphere. And this light, filtered by our atmosphere, reaches the other side with reddish and orange tones, as if every sunset and sunrise on the planet were projected simultaneously onto the moon's face. I think this is incredible. The result is impressive. The entire moon turns a shade of red. You look at it, and it seems like it's covered in blood. It's a rare spectacle, and one that, throughout the centuries, has caused dread in many people. Now, the total lunar eclipse of March 3rd, 2026 will be the only total lunar eclipse of the entire year. That's why you can't miss it. If you don't manage to see this one, you won't be able to see it at any other time this year. The phase of totality, when the moon turns completely red, will last approximately 58 minutes. That's right, just as you heard, 58 minutes. The eclipse will be visible across much of Asia, Australia, New Zealand, the Pacific Islands, North America, and Central America. Billions of people will have the chance to see this phenomenon with their own eyes, and there won't be another total lunar eclipse until the end of 2028. So it's a unique chance. But what turns this scientific event into something prophetic is what the Bible says about the moon turning to blood. The prophet Joel wrote, "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." This is in Joel chapter 2, verses 30 and 31. The Apostle Peter repeated these exact words on the day of Pentecost in Acts of the Apostles chapter 2, verse 20. And John, in the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 12, wrote, "And the moon became like blood." 3 passages, written by 3 different authors and in distinct centuries, all pointing to the same sign. The moon turning to blood as a harbinger of events that will shake the nations. Question 2. What is the story of Purim, from Haman to Iran? I'll answer you now. See what the story of Purim is like, because it's absolutely essential for us to understand the prophetic meaning of the March 3rd blood moon. It all begins in the book of Esther, in the heart of the Persian Empire, which stretched from India to Ethiopia. King Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes, reigned over 127 provinces, and in this vast and powerful empire, a man named Haman rose to power as prime minister. Haman was an Agagite, a descendant of Agag, king of the Amalekites, the people whom God had ordered to be completely eliminated because of their perpetual enmity against Israel. Haman was a man of boundless ambition and arrogant pride. He demanded that everyone bow down before him as if he were a deity, but there was one man who refused. Mordecai was a faithful Jew who would not bend his knee to anyone but the God of Israel. Mordecai's refusal infuriated Haman, but destroying just one man wasn't enough to satisfy his thirst for revenge. Haman decided to exterminate all the Jews in the empire, all of them, men, including women, children, and even the elderly. To determine the date of the massacre, Haman cast lots, which in Hebrew is called Purim, hence the name of the festival. The lots fell on the 13th day of the month of Adar. Haman convinced the king to sign the decree of extermination, and messengers were sent to all the provinces with the order to annihilate the Jewish people in a single day. But God had a plan, and the instrument of that plan was a young Jewish woman named Esther. She had been chosen as the queen of Persia. Her uncle Mordecai challenged her with words that teach us to this day. Who knows if you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther chapter 4 verse 14. Esther risked her own life by appearing before the king without being summoned, something that could result in immediate execution, but God's favor was upon her. The king extended the golden scepter, and Esther revealed Haman's conspiracy. The result was a total reversal. Haman was hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Not only him, but his 10 sons were also executed, and a new decree was issued, allowing the Jews to defend themselves against their enemies. The day that should have been one of mourning was transformed into a day of celebration. The day that would have been one of destruction ended up becoming a day of deliverance. Here's where it gets interesting. Ancient Persia is modern-day Iran. The spirit of Haman, that demonic desire to destroy the Jewish people, did not die with him. This spirit has walked throughout all of history. Remember Antiochus Epiphanes and Hitler? Well, today that same spirit manifests in the regime of the Ayatollahs in Tehran, which maintains a countdown clock for the destruction of Israel in the center of its capital. Question 3. Would the 3 blood moons on Purim be a prophetic warning? Let's answer that question now. In 2024, there was a lunar eclipse that coincided with Purim. In 2025, there was another total lunar eclipse, exactly on Purim, on March 14th. And now, in 2026, we will have another total lunar eclipse falling precisely on Purim on March 3rd. These are 3 consecutive blood moons on the same biblical festival. This has never happened before in recent history. The mathematical probability of this occurring by mere chance is very low. When we analyze what happened in the world during this period, we see that all of this has a purpose. Think about what happened between these 3 blood moons. The Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, triggered the most devastating war Israel has faced in decades. Israel entered Gaza to destroy Hamas. Hezbollah was weakened in Lebanon. The Assad regime fell in Syria. The Houthis attacked ships in the Red Sea. And then, in June 2025, the unthinkable happened. Israel and the United States launched Operation Rising Lion, the 12-day war against Iran. The attacks destroyed about 2/3 of the Iranian ballistic missile launchers. The main nuclear facilities in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan suffered severe damage. The Iranian nuclear program was set back by years. Billions of dollars in military infrastructure were reduced to rubble, and all this happened while blood moons fell over Purim, the festival that celebrates exactly the defeat of Persia when it tried to destroy Israel. We see history repeating itself here. Did you notice that? The spirit of Haman has resurfaced in modern Iran, and God is responding in the same way he did 2,500 years ago with the defeat of Israel's enemies. Question 4. What do the blood moons and the history of Israel have in common? This pattern of blood moons coinciding with crucial events in Israel's history is not something new. It has been repeating throughout the centuries in a way that defies any natural explanation. In 1492, the Jews were expelled from Spain by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Hundreds of thousands were forced to abandon their homes, their belongings, everything they owned. The Spanish Inquisition tortured and burned alive those who refused to convert to Catholicism. Soon after, between 1493 and 1494, a tetrad of blood moons occurred, coinciding with the Jewish holidays of Passover and Sukkot. In 1948, after the horror of the Holocaust, Israel was reborn as a nation. For the first time in almost 2,000 years, the Jewish people had a sovereign state in their ancestral land. Immediately, 5 Arab armies invaded the newborn state of Israel to eliminate it. And between 1949 and 1950, another tetrad of blood moons fell over the Jewish holidays. The prophet Jeremiah had prophesied, "I will restore them to their own land that I gave to their ancestors." Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 15. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel recaptured the city of Jerusalem, including the Temple Mount, where the first and second temples had been built. For the first time since the Roman destruction in 70 AD, a reunified Jerusalem was the capital of the Jewish state. And again, between 1967 and 1968, another tetrad of blood moons coincided with the biblical holidays. Pastor John Hagee said something very powerful about this. The heavens are God's billboard. He has been sending signs to earth, and we are not picking them up. 1492, expulsion from Spain, blood moons. 1948, rebirth of Israel, blood moons. 1967, reunification of Jerusalem, blood moons. And now, from 2024 to 2026, 3 blood moons on Purim, while an epic war unfolds in the Middle East with Iran as the protagonist. Every major turning point in Israel's history has been accompanied by signs in the heavens, and we are living through exactly that right now. Question 5, how is Iran today? The modern Haman. In Iran, it's like this. In February 2026, notice this, and you'll see how the parallel with Haman's story is disturbing. 8 months after the 12-Day War, Iran is at a historical crossroads. The Ayatollah's regime has adopted what analysts call the doctrine of differential reconstruction. This means they are trying at the same time to rebuild their air defenses, regain their arsenal of ballistic missiles, and, most dangerous of all, accelerate the fortification of their nuclear facilities in deeper underground bunkers, out of reach of satellites and inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency. Before the war in June 2025, it was estimated that Iran possessed about 2,500 ballistic missiles. Attacks by Israel and the United States destroyed between 35 and 45% of that arsenal. But according to reports from February 2026, Iran has already reconstituted its stockpile of medium-range missiles to pre-war levels. And it doesn't stop there. Intelligence reports indicate that Iran retains about 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%. This is a quantity dangerously close to what is needed for a nuclear weapon. An Italian Institute of Political Studies, citing internal sources in Iran, revealed that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei had secretly approved the development of miniaturized nuclear warheads. Know what's even more worrying? While Iran tries to rebuild its military and nuclear power, its regime has maintained for decades the motto, "Death to Israel." There's a countdown clock for the destruction of Israel, publicly displayed in Tehran. Banners were hung in the capital, threatening new attacks against Israeli and American targets. Do you see what's happening? Haman wanted to destroy all the Jews in a single day. Iran wants to do the same. Haman used the power of the Persian Empire to carry out his plans. Iran uses ballistic missiles and nuclear programs. Haman financed and armed Israel's enemies. Iran created what's called the Axis of Resistance: Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, militias in Iraq and Syria. And in January 2026, massive protests broke out in all 31 provinces of Iran. The Persian people are rising up against the regime of the Ayatollahs. Thousands were killed and thousands were arrested. It's the largest wave of protests since the 1979 revolution. In the story of Esther, the Persian people weren't enemies of the Jews. It was Haman and his faction. Likewise, the Iranian people are not Israel's enemy. It's the regime of the Ayatollahs, which is the spirit of Haman that took over Persia, seeking the destruction of God's people. And just as Haman fell, this regime will also fall. The blood moon is the sign. Question 6. What do Joel's prophecy and the celestial signs of 2026 have in common. The prophet Joel spoke about the blood moon in a very broad way. He placed this sign within a complete context. Let's read it again carefully. It says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." Joel chapter 2 verses 30 and 31. Now observe what is happening in 2026 regarding celestial signs. Besides the blood moon, we have an impressive sequence of astronomical events. On February 17th, 2026, 2 weeks before the blood moon, there was an annular solar eclipse, the so-called Ring of Fire, when the moon passes between the Earth and the Sun, but doesn't cover it completely, leaving a bright ring of sunlight visible. The Sun turning into darkness, but not completely, like a foreshadowing, like a warning. On March 3rd, the blood moon on Purim, the moon turning into blood. And on August 12th, 2026, what is being called the eclipse of the century, a total solar eclipse, which will darken the skies over the Arctic Ocean, Greenland, Iceland, the Atlantic Ocean, Portugal, Spain, and North Africa. Day will turn into night for more than 6 minutes. It will be the longest total solar eclipse of the entire 21st century. The sun will be turned to darkness, the moon will be turned to blood, exactly as Joel prophesied, all in a single year. All of this being fulfilled in 2026. Jesus Christ said in Luke chapter 21, verse 25, "There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars." And in Matthew chapter 24, verse 33, "When you see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors." We cannot look at these signs and simply think everything is normal. We cannot pretend that it is just astronomy. When the heavens align with God's calendar, when eclipses fall on biblical feasts, when the moon is tinged with blood on the exact day that Israel celebrates the defeat of its Persian enemies, realize that this is not something common. Question 7. How was the reversal? The principle of Purim. There is a deeply powerful principle embedded in the story of Purim that we need to understand better. It is the principle of divine reversal. See the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 1. It says, "On the day when the enemies of the Jews expected to have dominion over them, exactly the opposite happened. The Jews themselves had dominion over those who hated them." This principle of reversal is a hallmark of God's action in history. When it seems that all is lost and the enemy seems invincible, it even seems that the death decree has already been signed, and it is exactly at that moment that God intervenes and gives victory to his people. Haman built a gallows for Mordecai and ended up hanging from it. Haman planned the destruction of the Jews, and the Jews were exalted. The day marked for the massacre became a day of celebration. Look at what has happened in recent years. Hamas planned October 7th as the blow that would destroy Israel, but the result was the destruction of Hamas itself. Hezbollah accumulated an arsenal to eliminate northern Israel, but Israel dismantled the leadership and much of Hezbollah's power. Iran built a ring of strangulation around Israel with its proxies, but that ring was broken. The Assad regime in Syria, an ally of Tehran, fell. Iran's missile arsenal has been devastated, its nuclear facilities have been bombed, and now the Iranian people themselves are rising up against the regime that oppresses both Jews and Persians. This is Purim happening in real time. Divine reversal works like this. What the enemy planned for evil, God is turning into good. And the blood moon of March 3rd is the celestial seal upon this truth. God can do the same in your life. He can turn evil into good. If you understand this, comment. God is the God of the impossible. Question 8. What does this, everything that has been said, mean for us? Maybe you're watching this video and thinking, okay, this is fascinating about Israel and Iran, but what does it have to do with me? It has everything to do with you. The principle of Purim doesn't just apply to nations. It applies to your life. That problem that seems insurmountable, that situation that seems hopeless, that enemy, whether it's a disease, a financial crisis, a broken relationship, an addiction that imprisons you, may be about to experience a divine reversal. Esther fasted for 3 days before appearing before the king. She sought God with all her heart, and God answered with a miracle that no one expected. In the same way, when we seek God with sincerity, with humility, with genuine faith, He can reverse the circumstances of our lives in ways that defy all human logic. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, verse 42, "Watch, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. The signs are in the heavens. They are there to prepare us, and also to awaken us, and finally to call us back to what really matters." We live in a time when biblical prophecies are being fulfilled at a speed we've never seen before. There was the rebirth of Israel, the reunification of Jerusalem, the preparations for the Third Temple, the wars in the Middle East, the signs in the sun, moon, and stars. All of this is happening, and it's happening now in our time.